back to Pokemon Red, Blue and Yellow versions. Last time I just finished up on Route 5 south of Cerulean City. At the south end of Route 5 is a building leading to Saffron City, but the guard is an arsehole and refuses to let me pass because he's thirsty. So instead I have to take the underground path next to it. On the first floor is a girl trading a female Nidoran named Spot for my male Nidoran. This is why I had a spare. This trade is a lot less useful in Blue, as the male Nidoran I'm giving away is much rarer while the female Nidoran is very common. Entering the tunnel itself, it's a long walk south. First, the tile 2 west of the stairs is hiding a full restore, and then several steps south from there I can find a hidden X special. Then I go south some more until I come out the other side, placing me in Route 6 south of Saffron City. First I challenge the bug catcher in the northwest corner of the route. He has a level 16 Weedle, a level 16 Caterpie and a second level 16 Weedle, easily defeated. Southeast a little and I chat to this male junior trainer in the middle of a conversation. He has just a level 20 Squirtle. I think the first time a generic trainer has one of the starters. My Bellsprout easily defeats it. Then next to him I chat to his girlfriend, another junior trainer. She has a level 16 Rattata and level 16 Pikachu. Not tough, but still a bigger challenge than the last two. Following the road south some more puts me against another bug catcher. He has a level 20 Butterfree that gets my Rattata to level 20. That's his only Pokemon, and that gained level evolves my Rattata into Eradicate. As a kid, I thought Raticate was ugly and a poor follow-up to Rattata, but over 2 decades since I've come around to it, and I like it about as much as its original. It's a shame I have no plans to keep a Rattata for my final team, as that Hyperfang was a big help to me. Southwest some more, and at the end there are another junior trainer couple. First a girl, first level 16 Pidgey, a second level 16 Pidgey, and a third level 16 Pidgey. After that is the boy, with a level 16 Spearow and a level 16 Raticate that gets my Wartortle to level 21. With Route 6 cleared out, I move south again to enter Vermilion City. But first, Red. I trade the male Nidoran for Spot in the underground path, grab the full restore and X special, then enter Route 6. I take on the first bug catcher, getting my Oddish to level 21 and my Charmeleon to level 20. After the battle, my Oddish evolves into a Gloom. Gloom was always the most memorable of the original 3 of the line to me. Maybe it's because I remember at least 2 episodes in the anime where one had a prominent role, but I also like seeing the plant life cycle shown through them. Basic cute Oddish with grass on its head gets bigger and now the still growing plant stinks. But even then, Gloom is still cute in its own way, but since its next evolution is from a stone, it's getting benched forever now. I take on the first male junior trainer, then the first female one, then second bug catcher which gets my Spearow to level 20, it evolves into a Fearow. For years I ignored Fearow in favour of Pidgeot because I just thought it looked ugly as a kid. I've gained a new appreciation for it since thanks to how good it is. Gameplay wise, it's so much better than Pidgeot, although in Red it's getting benched as I already planned for Fearow to be in Blue's final team. I take on the second female junior trainer, getting my Paras to level 20, and then take on the second male one before I move on to Vermilion City. And finally, Yellow. The girl's trade has been changed. She wants a Cubone for a Machoke. I don't have one, so I'll have to come back later. I get the full restore and X special and go on to Route 6. I defeat the first bug catcher. The first male junior trainer has had his Pokemon changed. His Squirtle has been swapped for a level 16 Weepinbell. The first female one has had her team shrunk down to just one level 20 Cubone. I then take on the second bug catcher which gets my Pikachu to level 22. The second female junior trainer is unchanged and so is the second male one, and it's into Vermilion City. Back to Blue. Vermilion City is a port city and one of the more notable things in here is this guy using his Machop to help build a house that will never get finished. Next to the Pokemon Center is a house where a fishing guru lives. Telling him I like fishing has him give me the old rod. This is just good for catching Magikarps and apparently the odd Goldeen as well, but it has literally never happened for me. I already bought the Magikarp outside Mount Moon, so I'm not getting much use out of this. In the southwest of town across from the gym is a house where I can finally put that second Spearow I caught to use. The kid inside wants one in exchange for the only Farfetch'd in Red and Blue, named Dux. Farfetch'd is a Pokemon I forget about often, but when I do remember it, it's fondly. It's one of those Pokemon I'd never use, but I'm glad it exists as just by being there, it adds character to the world. But here's another one of my childhood misunderstandings. As a kid, I was adamant Farfetch'd evolved into Doduo, because Farfetch'd is a one-headed bird placed directly before the two-headed bird in the Pokédex that evolves into a three-headed bird. I tricked myself into thinking Farfetch'd was the first part of the 3-stage line, and although I've long been off the mainline games, I was at least glad to see it get some attention in Gen 8 with a new form and evolution. Next door to that house is the Pokemon Fan Club, populated by people who love Pokemon a little bit too much. I talk to the chairman and let him ramble on and on about how much he wants to fuck his Rapidash. In return for listening to all that, he gives me a bike voucher I can redeem back in Cerulean. Or he would, but my inventory is full. So while clearing out my inventory into the PC, I also add Mankey, Spearow and Zubat to the party. But then I just forget about getting the voucher and move east, past Diglett's Cave and out into Route 11. I take on the first youngster who has just a level 21 Ekans and defeat him. In the tall grass I find a wild Drowsy at level 13, which I catch. Drowsy is whatever, never really cared much about it. I know people like to make internet ghost stories about it and its evolution's hypnotism powers, but that scene has never interested me. South of that youngster is the game's first gambler. He has a level 18 Poliwag that gets my Bellsprout to level 21 and teaches it Stun Spore. He then has a level 18 Horsey that also goes down easily. At level 21, my Bellsprout evolves into a Weeping Bell. I like its big derpy face, does what else need to be said? I like the other two members of its line more, but once again it never really had a memorable anime role in the early days to help it out. It's another one that evolves through stone, so like Gloom, it's benched forever and I bring Magikarp back out. In the centre of the route I move south a little to find another youngster. He has a level 18 male Nidoran, followed by a level 18 Nidorino. I defeat him with no level ups. There's another youngster north of him. He has a level 19 Sandshrew and a level 19 Zubat that gets my Mankey to level 20. East of the second youngster I faced here is a second Gambler, a level 18 Bellsprout and a level 18 Oddish that go down easily to my Spearow. North and east a little more is a third Gambler. He has a level 18 Growlithe and a level 18 Vulpix that gets my Wartortle to level 22. Southeast of him a little is the first Engineer I face in this playthrough. These tend to use electric types and this one just has a level 21 Magnemite. I defeat him but get nothing for it aside from the money. Northeast of the Engineer is the fourth youngster of this route. A level 17 Rattata followed by a second that gets my Mew to level 20, teaching it Mega Punch. Then a level 17 Raticate. Just south of the youngster is a fourth Gambler. He starts with a level 18 Voltorb and then a level 18 Magnemite that gets Mew to level 21. Just north of him is this lone tree I can inspect for a hidden escape rope. South of the Gambler is a second Engineer, the final trainer on this route. He has a level 18 Magnemite, a second level 18 Magnemite and a level 18 Magneton that gets Mew to level 22. I enter the gatehouse and go up the stairs where one of Professor Oak's aides is waiting for me. If I have 30 Pokemon registered as caught, he'll give me the item finder. I have 42, so he gives me it. This is used to detect hidden items, but since I'm using a guide for them, this is kind of useless to me. There's also a guy in here who'll trade a Nidorina for my Nidorino, but I don't have a spare one, so he'll have to wait. Looking at the binoculars, they tell me that Rock Tunnel is the only way to get from Cerulean City to Lavender Town. I exit to the east onto Route 12 and inspect this one tree for a hidden Hyper Potion. I can't go further as a sleeping Snorlax blocks the road. Back into Vermilion, I kick out Magikarp for Oddish. Then to the southeast of town, I go down the harbour towards the SS Anne. But first, the red playthrough. I get the old rod and trade a spare Spearow for the Farfetch'd. Actually get the bike voucher, put Zubat, Bellsprout and Rattata in my team and take on Route 11. The first youngster, the first Gambler, the second youngster which gets my Rattata to level 20 and evolves it into a Raticate. I catch a Drowsy and kick out Raticate to Pidgeotto. I take on the third youngster, the second Gambler, the third Gambler and get Zubat to level 20. I face the first Engineer, the fourth youngster who gets Paris to level 21, the second Engineer who gets Charmeleon to level 21, and the fourth Gambler. I get the hidden escape rope, the hidden Hyper Potion on Route 12, and the item finder from the aid before I board the SS Anne again. And finally, to cover it again in yellow. I get the old rod and talk to a police officer who has a Squirtle she's willing to give away, but only to a good enough trainer, and I'm not that yet apparently. No Farfetch'd trade in this version. In fact, the kid who trades it has been evicted from this house in favour of the guy in a suit who talks about HMs. In the fan club we get to see our Pikachu fall in love with a member's Clefairy and I have to snap it out of it. I get the bike voucher first time here as well. That leaves Route 11 where, aside from a trainer having some changed moves, teams are the same. The first youngster, then I catch a level 15 Drowsy. I take on the first Gambler, then the second youngster, third youngster who gets Charmeleon to level 20, second Gambler who gets Paris to level 20 and teaches it Leech Life, then Venonat to level 20, then the third Gambler and first Engineer who gets Bellsprout to level 20, followed by the fourth youngster grabbing the hidden escape rope and taking on the second Engineer who gets Charmeleon to level 21. Then finally the fourth Gambler who gets Bellsprout to level 21 and evolves it into a Weeping Bell. I then grab the Route 12 Hyper Potion and the item finder. The trader in here is now asking for a Lickitung, a Pokemon only found in a post-game location in this version, for a Dugtrio, which I can catch right now in the cave next to this route, possibly the biggest ripoff in the game. SS Anne next. As I enter the boat, the first room has 6 doors lined up in a row that the first guy I speak to says is filled with bored trainers looking for battles. Instead I go to the southeast corner and go down the stairs. The floor it takes me to has 5 doors in a row I check out from right to left. The first room is just a guy in his Machoke with a max potion I steal from right under his nose. The second room contains 2 trainers, both of them sailors, the first I've battled in the game. These mainly battle with water Pokemon. The first one starts with a level 17 Horsey that gets my Oddish to level 14, and then a level 17 Shellder that gets it to level 15. His last Pokemon is a level 17 Tentacool. After that I take on the other one. He has just one level 21 Shellder, and it bumps my Oddish 2 levels to level 17. Third room has a dodgy sailor telling me he likes feisty kids like me. He has a level 17 Horsey, a second level 17 Horsey that gets my Oddish to level 18, and a third level 17 Horsey that gets my Spearow to level 20 and evolves it into a Fearow. This Fearow I'll be keeping around as part of my final blue team. There's an Ether next to the sailor and I check the fourth room. It looks almost identical to the last one. The sailor this time starts with a level 18 Tentacool and then a level 18 Staryu that gets Oddish to level 19. The item next to him is TM44, containing Rest. The last room on this floor has 2 more trainers. First is the first fisherman I've battled in this run. First a level 17 Tentacool, then a level 17 Staryu that gets Oddish to level 20, then a level 17 Shellder. The other trainer is another sailor with just a level 20 Machop. It gets my Oddish to level 21, evolving it into Gloom, getting it benched like in red, but first I grab the hidden Hyper Potion under the pillow. With that floor done, it's back to the Pokemon Center to swap Gloom for Paris. Now to take on these 6 rooms on the first floor, going from right to left. The first room contains the first gentleman I've battled. He starts with a level 18 Growlithe, followed by a second at the same level. The second room also has just a gentleman. He starts with a level 19 male Nidoran and then a level 19 female Nidoran. The next 2 rooms just have normal passengers. The fifth room has 2 more trainers, starting with this lass. She has a level 18 Pidgey and a level 18 female Nidoran. The other trainer is a youngster with just a level 21 male Nidoran. This room also contains TM8 Body Slam. The last room has nothing interesting, so I take the door in the southwest corner into the kitchen. No trainers in here, just chefs and a great ball in one of the bins. That just leaves the stairs in the northwest corner. Before checking out the rest of the floor, I go south up some more stairs and then west to end up outside on the deck. There are 2 sailors out here. The first has a level 17 Machop that gets Mankey to level 21 and teaches it Fury Swipes. He then has a level 17 Tentacool. The second sailor has a level 18 Machop and a level 18 Shellder. Now to properly check out the second floor, where there are 6 more doors lined up that I check out left to right. The first room has a guy who talks about Snorlax, which will add it to my Pokédex I've seen. The second room has 2 trainers. First a fisherman with a level 17 Goldeen that gets my Paras to level 20. Then a level 17 Tentacool and another level 17 Goldeen that gets Mankey to level 22. The other trainer is a gentleman with just a level 23 Pikachu that gets my Wartortle to level 23. The item in here is a Max Ether. The third room is people giving me hints towards future HM moves, while the fourth has 2 more trainers. First a gentleman with a level 17 Growlithe and a level 17 Ponyta. Then a lass with a level 18 Rattata and level 18 Pikachu. The item in here is a rare candy, and that is every single optional trainer defeated here. Back to the Pokemon Center and I give that rare candy to my Magikarp, getting it to level 20 and evolving it into Gyarados. Gyarados is pretty cool and makes dealing with Magikarp to get one very much worth it. I'd probably say Gyarados is the most intimidating Gen 1 Pokemon from a child's perspective. It's no wonder the anime constantly used them almost as these terrifying forces of nature. It's a shame this one isn't going to get used, as I already had the water spot on my blue team reserved for Blastoise. Back in the ship, a woman in the room at the end of the floor says that the captain looked really ill when she saw him. I can go towards his cabin at the right end, but look who's in my way, Blue. He brags about having caught 40 Pokemon. Well, joke's on you dickhead, I have 45 now. Blue now has a new sprite when the battle starts, making him look more serious. As a kid, this was where my first ever run ended. I just couldn't defeat him with my 20-something Charmeleon, level 10 Butterfree, and level 6 and 7 Randos filling out the rest of the team. He starts with his Pidgeotto, now level 19. My Mew takes it out in one critical Mega Punch. His Rattata somehow evolved into a Raticate at level 16. I have my Paras scratch it out and inspire a load of shitty grimdark internet theories when Blue benches it forever after this loss. His Abra has also evolved into a Kadabra and is now level 18. Zubat leech lifes most of its health away but gets taken out, leaving Fearow to finish the job. All that's left is his evolved starter, Ivysaur at level 20. It gets wiped out by Fearow, who then reaches level 21. Blue says he heard the captain was a Cutmaster, but is unimpressed to find a seasick old man. He tells me to see him myself and leaves, so I go down into his cabin. The captain is laid over a bin emptying his guts. You see, unlike Blue, I am a compassionate person who can't continue the game without helping him, so I rub his back to make him feel better. He's so thankful he gives me HM1, Cut. Now he feels better, the ship will set sail soon. You can also look in the puke bin if that's what does it for you. With Cut, I can now cut down some of these small trees blocking my path, but being a HM, it can't be forgotten. Everyone hates HMs for this, I don't think I need to go any further into it. At least Cut is far from the worst one. Well, with that I leave and the SSN sets sail, never to appear again. But I got every item and defeated every trainer here, so it doesn't matter. Oh yeah, the truck. I've acknowledged it so no one needs to remind me of it. With it done on blue, let's get it done on red. I go down the stairs in the southeast to start with again and grab the max potion. I take on the first sailor, getting Bellsprout to level 13 and Alakazam to level 20, learning Disable. Then the second sailor, getting Bellsprout to level 15. The third sailor is next, getting Bellsprout to level 17. I take the Aether and then battle the fourth sailor. It gets Bellsprout to level 18 and Zubat to level 21, teaching it Confuse Ray. I get the TM44 and battle the first fisherman. It gets Bellsprout to level 19 and I battle the fifth sailor before getting the hidden hyper potion. First floor next and I battle the first gentleman, followed by the second who gets Bellsprout to level 20. The lassie's next and she gets Alakazam to level 21. Just the youngster is left, followed by getting the TM8, the Great Ball in the kitchen bin and then going up the stairs and to the deck. I battle the first deck sailor and get Bellsprout to level 21, evolving it into Weepinbell and getting it benched for Geodude. I battle the second sailor and get Zubat to level 22. This evolves Zubat into Golbat. Golbat's cool. While it loses the cuteness it had as Zubat, it more than makes up for it by not being absolutely everywhere and making you sick of the sight of it. It's one of those I don't think of too much these days, overshadowed by later getting an evolution, but at 7 or 8 years old I thought it looked pretty tough. That just leaves the last row of doors. First is the fisherman who gets Alakazam to level 22, then the first gentleman and the max Aether. The second gentleman follows who gets Pidgeotto to level 20 before I take on the last who gets Geodude to level 20. I take the rare candy and evolve myself another Gyarados. Now for blue. Geodude's Rock Throw takes down Pidgeotto, then the Ekans I got out is defeated trying to wrap the Raticate to death so Pidgeotto deals with it. It also takes out the Kadabra and reaches level 21, learning Whirlwind. That leaves just his newly evolved Wartortle whom my Paras scratches to death, getting to level 22. I get HM1 from the captain and watch the SSN set sail. And to see it off once again in yellow. Starting with the room from the southeastern stairs again, I get the max potion and take on the first sailor. I could let Pikachu dominate these mostly water trainers, but I have Pokemon that need evolving too. Oddish reaches level 20 and I battle the second and then the third, who gets my Oddish to level 21 and evolves it into Gloom. I get the Aether and bench Gloom for Bulbasaur. I battle the fourth sailor who gets Pikachu to level 23 and I get the TM44. The first fisherman is next who gets Bulbasaur to level 12. The fourth sailor is next and gets Bulbasaur to level 13, teaching it Vine Whip. I get the hidden hyper potion and take on the first floor. The first gentleman, the second gentleman who gets Pikachu to level 24, the lass, the youngster, the TM8, the Great Ball in the kitchen, and then to the deck where I take on the first sailor. He gets Bulbasaur to level 14 and I battle the second. The combination of Leech Seed and Vine Whip finally lets Bulbasaur win a battle alone, getting it to level 15. Just the last floor now. First the fisherman who gets Bulbasaur to level 16 and Pikachu to level 25, evolving Bulbasaur into Ivysaur. You know, it's amazing what being playable in Smash can do for a Pokemon. As a kid, I'd say Ivysaur was the least talked about of the 9 from the starter lines. I guess it was the one that looked the most like its pre-evolution so people didn't care much. But just giving it that big budget attention in a fighting game and being one of the most unexpected characters in Brawl really helps you develop an appreciation for it. So yeah, I do like Ivysaur quite a bit now that something has actually given it that attention and given you a reason to not forget about it. Although it does make me wonder how things would be if Sakurai instead went for Bulbasaur and Wartortle in Pokemon Trainers team in Brawl. The first gentleman on this floor has had his team changed. His one Pikachu has been swapped for a level 22 Voltorb and level 22 Magnemite. It's a tough one as it defeats my Paras and very nearly takes down my Charmeleon too. I grab the Max Aether and take on the second gentleman, who gets Ivysaur to level 17. The final lass has also had her team changed. She now just has a level 20 Jigglypuff. I get the rare candy and evolve myself a Gyarados, who by the way learns Bite and Evolution at level 20. I'd reserved Gyarados for yellow when I was deciding on my final teams, and so Gyarados will be my main water fighter in this version. I give it the Bubble Beam TM I got from Misty to make itself a true threat as well. And now for blue. His Spearow is now level 19 and Gyarados destroys it. His illegal Raticate got confiscated between versions and he's still a Rattata in this version. His Sandshrew is level 18 and gets wrecked by Bubble Beam. Finally his EV is level 20 and Bubble Beam has swept his entire team. I get HM1 from the captain and watch the SSN leave one last time, not seeing it again unless I somehow make this channel last long enough to reach Gen 3. And we return to blue. Between the harbour and Route 11 is the entrance to Diglett's Cave. This is a very short place, but we are going to spend a lot of time here. This place is just a walk west and then north to the exit. First, since I'm going to need Cut, I teach it to Paras. I also swap out Zubat for that spare Abra I caught. The only encounters in here are Diglett and its evolution. I catch a Diglett at level 19. I've always loved Diglett. Most of it is just the what even is it part. Like, it's just a nub, how does it learn Scratch and Slash? What's underneath the ground that we can't see? Even though I know that thing below the eyes is a nose, I still can only see a mouth when it's in 2D. Diglett's great. As I travel through the cave, Wartortle reaches level 24 and I have it forget Tackle for Bite. I reach the exit and it puts me back on Route 2, on the other end of the trees just south of Pewter City. To the south of the cave is a house where there's a guy trading a Mr. Mime named Marcel for an Abra, so I give him the spare one. I know a lot of people don't like Mr. Mime, finding it creepy or out of place compared to other Pokemon, but it has never bothered me. I just accepted that there is a Pokemon that looks like that. I was never a massive fan, but it never bothered me either. Like Farfetch'd, I like that it exists because it being there makes Pokemon more interesting. South of the house, I use Cut to remove a tree and keep moving to find another gatehouse. Another Evoke Sage is in here, offering to give me HM5 if I have 10 Pokemon caught. I am long past that point, so I get it. It teaches Flash, which is the worst. Takes up an entire move slot permanently to help you get through just one mandatory dungeon, and in battle itself, the move is absolute garbage. Through the southern exit I find a HP up just lying there. A bit further south is another Moonstone. Back to the Diglett's cave entrance, I cut through the tree to return to Pewter City, where I swap the Mr. Mime for my Nidorino and use my new Moonstone to get a Nidoking. I then box it to bring Zubat back in. I also cut through the tree blocking the side entrance to the museum. One of the scientists in here says this old amber contains traces of Pokemon DNA and he thinks the Pokemon inside could be resurrected. His colleagues mock him for this, but he asks me to take it to a lab to see if he's correct. That's all the backtracking for now, and on the way back through Diglett's cave, Dugtrio appears rarely at level 29 and I catch it. I love Dugtrio even more than Diglett. I've always had a soft spot for the Pokemon that evolve into just more of the Pokemon they originally were stuck together, and I think Dugtrio is my favourite of those. Just how does it work? Are all three heads distinct beings with their own separate force, or is it just one mind with three faces? This fascinated me as a kid. Plus all my questions about Diglett apply here as well. Also, when I first played Yellow and made it all the way to the Elite Four, Dugtrio became the ace that carried me there as I constantly spammed Dig on every trainer, waiting for the attempt where luck was in my favour after several consecutive losses. They also make very good grinding targets for the XP they give, though their rarity hinders it a bit. Speaking of, I now decide to have a long grind before Vermilion Gym to bring my main team and evolving Pokemon up to around equal levels. First Fearow reaches level 22, Peck being super effective against the ground type Diglett line. Then level 23, level 24 and level 25 where it tries to learn Mirror Move, which I replace Growl for. Next Mew reaches level 23 with Mega Punch being a strong match for them. Then level 24 and level 25, which is my current aim. Zubat to level 20, Paras to level 21. These two don't have good Diglett killing moves and can actually get taken down, so they go slower. Mankey to level 23, Wartortle to level 25, Mankey to level 24, Paras to level 22, Mankey to level 25, Zubat to level 21 and 22 soon after, evolving into Golbat and getting swapped out for Pidgeotto along with Mankey for Geodude. Next is Paras to level 23, Pidgeotto to level 20 and Paras to level 24, which evolves it into Parasect. Parasect is much cooler than Paras with its huge mushroom and blank white eyes, the latter being caused by the huge mushroom on its back fully taking over its mind. That's always been one of the more memorable of the brutal Pokédex entries for me. After that, Pidgeotto reaches level 21, then level 22, level 23, level 24 and level 25. Geodude is quite a good one to take on Digletts with as it resists Scratch while Rock Throw does decent damage. It reaches level 20, then I box Pidgeotto for Sandshrew. Geodude reaches level 21 and learns Self-Destruct, which is worthless when wanting to grind. Sandshrew Slash is quite good against these guys and quickly gets to level 20, then Geodude to level 22, Sandshrew to level 23, then level 22 which evolves it into Sandslash. I like Sandslash more than Sandshrew. I think it's cuter and the hedgehog spikes made it stand out more to me. But it's not one of the most memorable Pokemon to me and I don't think I've ever used one in a single battle ever. I drop it in the box and bring out Drowsy. Geodude reaches level 23 and level 24. Drowsy is a tough one to start grinding here as its only offensive move is Pound, which at level 13 isn't too useful against these. Geodude soon reaches level 25 and evolves into Graveler. For some reason, Graveler is my least favourite of the Geodude line. It's okay, but I've always found the other two more memorable. I couldn't tell you why, but even though this is clearly a bigger Geodude with legs and 2 extra arms, I still have trouble recognising it as a Geodude evolution. What also didn't help its memorability to me when I was a kid is that I don't remember a single anime appearance from it in the early days. I'm sure it did appear back then, I just don't remember it. Since it evolves through trading, it gets boxed forever and I bring out that level 6 seconds I traded from Red. Since my current grinding Pokemon are too weak for the Digletts, I try them on Route 11 instead where the wild Pokemon are weaker. Even that doesn't work and I go back to Route 24 instead. Drowsy reaches level 14, then level 15. This is still too slow thanks to rare Abras deciding they want to be super common and wasting my time with teleport, so I move back to Route 4 instead. Drowsy reaches level 16 and then level 17, finally learning Confusion. I can take on Diglets with that move, so I go back and start switch training Ekans with it, quickly getting it to level 7. Ekans reaches level 8, then jumps to level 10, then level 11, then level 12. I take it back to Route 24 so I can level it alone enough so it can fight Diglets alone. It reaches level 13, level 14, level 15, level 16, and then Drowsy reaches level 18. Ekans reaches level 17, level 18, level 19, and at this point I'm taking on Diglets alone. It reaches level 20, Drowsy reaches level 19, Ekans reaches level 21, and then soon after level 22, evolving it into Arbok. Arbok is a really good upgrade over Ekans. Once again its prominence in the anime helps, but even without it, I still think it looks really cool. There'll be other snake Pokemon in the future, but Arbok is still my favourite. Can't go wrong with that voice either. Most would normally do an impression after saying that, but I'm too uptight for that. I box Arbok and bring out one of the Meowth Psycho on Route 5. Drowsy reaches level 20, but Meowth is having a tough time leveling. Its only offensive attacks are Scratch and Bite and it can't take many hits. Drowsy reaches level 21, then level 22, level 23, then Meowth reaches level 15. Drowsy reaches level 24 and forgets Disable for Headbutt. It soon reaches level 25, but since it evolves at level 26, I decide to just keep going for a bit longer, and soon after Drowsy evolves into Hypno. I really don't have much to say about Hypno. I said Drowsy was whatever, but at least its dumpiness had some charm, but Hypno is one of those Pokemon I just have no feelings or opinions towards. It exists. I box it and get Mankey for later, now it's just Meowth to level. Gonna skim past the rest of this. At level 17 it learns Payday, letting me earn a tiny bit of extra money from wild battles. 11 minutes later at level 24 it learns Screech, for getting Growl. Then a minute later it reaches level 25. That was around a 2 hour and 10 minute grind with the triple speed that got several Pokemon to equal levels and evolved me 5 new ones. So let's skim through it all again in red. I catch a level 17 Diglett in the cave, trade an Abra for the Mr. Mime, get HM5 from the aid, grab the HP up and the Moonstone from Route 2 and evolve myself an Nidoking with it. I grab the old Amber, catch myself a level 29 Dugtrio and get to grinding. Alakazam is the first to reach level 25 as its Confusion rips through them. 9 minutes later, Charmeleon learns Rage at level 24, replacing Growl. Not long after, Pidgeotto hits level 25. 7 minutes later, Paras reaches level 24 and evolves into Parasect. 4 minutes and Charmeleon is the third to reach level 25. It takes 5 minutes from there for Geodude to reach level 25 and evolve into Graveler. Another 6 minutes for Ekans to reach level 22 and evolve into Arbok. After an hour of juggling Drowsy, the low-leveled Sandshrew from Blue, and Mankey, Sandshrew reaches level 22 and evolves into Sandslash. 15 minutes more to get Drowsy to level 26 for a Hypno, and 16 more minutes to get Mankey to level 25. That one was just under 2 hours. And one last time with Yellow. I catch a level 17 Diglett and trade for the Mr. Mime, which in Yellow requires a Clefairy. It's supposed to be hard since Clefairy is rarer than Abra, but it's easier since Clefairy doesn't have Teleport. The Mr. Mime has also been renamed Miles in this version. I get the HM5, use the Body Slam TL on Ivysaur to make room for the HP up, get the Moonstone, evolve myself a Wigglytuff and get the old Amber. I catch a level 31 Dugtrio back in the cave. This I intend to make part of my final Yellow team. Now for the grind. Gyarados reaches level 25 in no time, swapping Splash for Dragon Rage. Dragon Rage was such a letdown as a kid. The name sounds so cool and the anime made it out to be this insane move, but it only does a fixed 40 damage. Then a Nat gets in on the grind and its Confusion helps it do well. 5 minutes later, at level 22 it can learn Poison Powder, but I skip it. 5 minutes after that, Paras reaches level 24 and evolves into Parasect a third time. It takes another 20 minutes for something to happen when Ivysaur is a second to reach level 25, followed by Venonat 30 seconds later. 5 minutes later, Rattata reaches level 20 and becomes Eradicate. Another 14 minutes for Spearow to reach level 25 and get me Fearow. Just under 2 minutes later, Charmeleon reaches level 25. 7 minutes later and Zubat reaches level 22 for a Golbat. It takes another 14 minutes for Pidgeotto to reach level 25 and a further 2 minutes for Sandshrew to reach level 22 and become a Sandslash. 7 more minutes and Geodude reaches level 25 and becomes a Graveler. And once again I'm left juggling a Drowsy, Mankey and a low level trade in Ekans. After 47 minutes of this, Mankey reaches level 25. 5 minutes later, Ekans evolves into Arbok at level 22. Another 8 minutes to take Drowsy to that level 26 for Yellow's Hypno. That grind was the longest of the 3 at 2.5 hours. And now we have some trading. Between Red and Blue I trade my Gravelers to make them both evolve into Golems. I've always liked Golem more than Graveler, but not as much as Geodude. I don't quite get the lizard head or where two of its arms went, but the smooth round boulder look I've always enjoyed. It makes me think of a Goron from the Zelda series. I then send a Meowth over to Red. Then between Blue and Yellow I evolve Yellow's Graveler and send it my other spare Meowth. I send the Graveler back to register Ivysaur on Blue's decks, and then I send the Ivysaur over to Red to register it there. It's time to take on the Million Gym now. This is why my getting stuck at the 4th Blue battle killed my very first run, as you need to defeat him to get Cut, and you need Cut to reach the gym as a tree is blocking the way in. Before getting to this gym's gimmick, I'm going to take out the 3 trainers here. From south to north, the first trainer I battle is a Sailor. He has a level 21 Pikachu, and the second one, my Meowth, easily defeating both with Bite. A couple steps north gets me battling my first Rocker. He has a level 20 Voltorb, a level 20 Magnemite, and a second level 20 Voltorb. The last trainer here claims to have served under the gym leader Lieutenant Surge in the army, making you imagine what war must be like in the Pokemon world. This one is a gentleman and has just a level 23 Pikachu. With that done, I can do the gym puzzle. This is my least favourite gym in the game. There are 2 switches in all of these bins, but the correct one is randomised. Then the second switch is always next to the first, but it doesn't specify in which direction next to it. Get the second one wrong and the switch is reset and you have to piss about finding them again. Just an annoying waste of time. Eventually I get it and can reach Lieutenant Surge, once again getting the imagination going when he says Pokemon saved his life in the war. He starts with a level 21 Voltorb. Of course, my Golem or Dugtrio would be perfect for this electric gym, being immune to electric moves, but they're not part of my final team plan and are fully evolved, so they have to sit it out. Taking it out gets my Meowth to level 26. Level 18 Pikachu is next and goes down in 1 hit. His ace is level 26 Raichu, but that goes down in 2 hits as well. Surge gives me the Thunder Badge, which allows me to use the HM move Fly outside of battle. He also gives me TM24 containing Thunderbolt. Maybe the overall best electric move in this generation? Stronger than Thundershock and more accurate than Thunder. Back at the centre, I box my Mew for Hypno so I can teach it Flash for the upcoming dungeon. I then get on my way back to Cerulean City. While that version of Red treks back, let's quickly cover the other 2 versions, starting with Red version. I take out the Sailor, the Rocker who gets my Mankey to level 26, and the Gentleman. For Surge I just pit Mankey on him with Fury Swipes. It takes out the Voltorb and Pikachu but gets wiped out by the Raichu. I try Charmeleon with Rage but that gets taken down as well. So I have Alakazam finish the job, getting me the Thunder Badge and the TM24. Once again I bring out Hypno to teach it Flash and get heading back to Cerulean City. That just leaves Yellow, where the gym Pokemon have been revamped. This time I teach Hypno Flash before going to the gym. Since this game doesn't want other trainers to have Pikachus, the Sailors too have been replaced with a single level 24 Magnemite. But Dugtrio is part of my team in this version and at level 31, Dig destroys. The Rocker has had his level 20 Magnemite replaced with a 3rd level 20 Voltorb for some reason, and the Gentleman has had his 1 Pikachu replaced with a level 22 Voltorb and a level 22 Magnemite. Then there's Surge. To fit the anime episode, his other 2 Pokemon have been dumped. He battles with just a level 28 Raichu that my Dugtrio easily defeats, reaching level 32. That's something I forgot to mention about the anime gym leaders last episode. Sure, Misty only used Staryu and Starmie in her gym battle there like she originally did in the games, but she did also have a Goldeen at this point, as it was seen before either of those 2. I wonder if they felt giving her a 3rd Pokemon was a bit too hard for new players or something. But whatever, I get my Thunder Badge and TM24. Now I have the Thunder Badge, the police officer in the middle of town will give me the misbehaving Squirtle, who starts at level 10. An obvious reference to Ash's Squirtle in the anime being a mischievous little shit at first. Then it's back to Cerulean City. In Blue, I return to the bike shop to trade in my voucher and finally discover that when I made room for the voucher, I forgot to then get it. So I rush back to the Vermilion to pick it up, and now I finally have the bike. It moves faster than walking, but since I have triple speed, its usefulness is dulled a bit. Also, since you can't set a key item to the select button in Gen 1, it's not as convenient as it will be, requiring constant menu navigation. From the burgled house, going east some more takes me to a tall tree I can cut to reach Route 9. I go east and south to battle the first trainer here, a junior trainer. She has a level 18 Oddish, a level 18 Bellsprout, a second level 18 Oddish and a second level 18 Bellsprout that gets me out to level 27. Jumping the fences south of her gets me a TM30 I'm never gonna use since I don't need teleport anymore. East of it is the first hiker I've seen in a while. He has a level 20 Machop and a level 20 Onix. From him I go north and east some more until I reach a north and south fork. I go north and take on another junior trainer. He has a level 21 Growlithe and a level 21 Charmander. North some more takes me to a bug catcher. Finally, one that isn't still throwing out Caterpies and Metapods. This one has a level 19 Beedrill, followed by a second one of the same level. Continuing west into this grass, I can inspect this tree along the ledge for a hidden Ether. This then loops me back to the start of the route. Back at the fork, I go south and all the way east, passing another path north to take on a second hiker. He has a level 21 Geodude and a level 21 Onix that gets War Turtle to level 26. Going up that northern path I pass takes me to another bug catcher. This one hasn't learned and sends out a level 20 Caterpie that gets Meowth to level 28, followed by level 20 Weedle and level 20 Venonat that gets Mankey to level 26. At level 28, Meowth evolves into Persian. I know there are people out there that adore Persian, but I just think it's okay. I think it's one of those Pokemon that loses a lot of charm when it evolves and gets bigger. It's much better looking than its lowland form at least. From the bug catcher I go west to take on another junior trainer. He's got a level 19 Rattata, a level 19 Diglett, a level 19 Ekans and a level 19 Sandshrew. My Mankey takes them all on itself. Back to the bug catcher and north takes me to a third hiker. A level 20 Geodude, a level 20 Machop and second level 20 Geodude. All the way east and down this ledge and I find the final trainer of this route, one more junior trainer. She has just the one level 23 Meowth. Moving east from her takes me on to Route 10. There's a bit more to this route, but right now I just have access to a patch of grass, one trainer and one item. I run about in the grass until I find myself a Voltorb, which I catch at level 17. So I've never had a problem with most of the object Pokemon and quite like a lot of them, but Voltorb I've just never cared for. Maybe the fact it's just some angry eyes on a Pokeball, but it doesn't do it for me. Strangely enough, I'm far more positive on its evolution, but that's for later. Going south, there's a Pokemon Center here, and right next to it I cut this tree down to inspect this bit of cave right next to it, getting me a hidden super potion. A bit to the south is one more junior trainer. She has a level 20 Pikachu that gets War Turtle to level 27, and a level 20 Clefairy that gets Mankey to level 27. I choose not to learn Focus Energy. In the centre I bench Persian and bring out Pidgeotto. I then go through the entrance to Rock Tunnel. But first I have to make it there in red as well. I get the bike first time, no backtracking required, and onto Route 9 to take on the first junior trainer, getting Alakazam to level 26. I grab the TM30 and battle the first hiker, the second junior trainer, getting Mankey to level 27, then the first bug catcher and grabbing the hidden ether. I battle the second hiker and second bug catcher, which gets Mankey to level 28, evolving it into Primeape. Primeape is another Pokemon I really like, and once again the anime had something to do with it. This uncontrollable ball of rage was so unlike most of what Ash caught in the Gen 1 anime, which was mainly cute ones, starters or gift or plot Pokemon from these games, that Primeape felt unique among his catchers, which is why I was so salty it's written out in its second episode. It's another one that's pretty cool but can be cute if you look at it closer. But I've never really used a Primeape before, which is why this time this one will be part of my final red team. And a late addition to this script, between finishing writing it and recording this part I've since learned that Primeape has gained a new evolution in Scarlet and Violet, which at the time of me recording this came out 2 days ago. It's nice to see it get some special treatment, that's all I have to say. Can't say much else since I'm not getting the game. I battle the third junior trainer which gets Alakazam to level 27, teaching it Psybeam, and then the third hiker and fourth junior trainer who gets Alakazam to level 28 before I go into Route 10. My first battle gets me a level 16 Voltorb I catch. I get the hidden super potion and battle the junior trainer here before entering Rock Tunnel. That just leaves Yellow, where once again I start by getting the bike, heading to Route 9 and taking on the first junior trainer. I get TM30 and battle the first hiker. The second junior trainer has been changed entirely. He's now a youngster and has a single level 24 Sandshrew. I wonder if this is meant to reference that one kid in the anime with the super tough Sandshrew early on, but I feel like that happened before Vermilion City, maybe I'm remembering wrong. I take on the bug catcher and get the hidden ether. I battle the second hiker which gets Mankey to level 26. The second bug catcher is next, followed by the once third but now second junior trainer who gets Mankey to level 27. The third hiker comes after and then the once fourth, now third junior trainer. After her it's into Route 10 where Voltorb has been removed and swapped with 2 new Pokemon. First I catch level 16 Magnemite. Magnemite is another of the object Pokemon I really like. For what is just a floating eyeball with some magnets on each end, I just find it really endearing. I like it far more than the Voltorb it replaces on this route. I did have that Orange Island episode with the guy who herds Magnemites taped on VHS along with a few other random episodes, and me and my brother watched that tape a lot, so maybe that had something to do with it. Never used one seriously though. Next is a Machop, which I also catch at level 16. Machop on the other hand I have never cared for. Its evolutions are an improvement, but the basic first stage Machop is one of those I just have no feeling towards. To me, it was one of those Pokemon you'd constantly get several duplicates of in your card pack openings and you'd wish it was most other Pokemon instead, and you couldn't trade them because everyone else also had a million Machops and also didn't care about it. Neither cool, cute or memorable, it's just there to be evolved into something better. I pick up the hidden super potion, defeat the junior trainer, and quickly gain Mankey that last level to evolve the Primeape, which now learns Rage on evolution, so I can bench it and bring out Squirtle for my trek through Rock Tunnel. Which I'll start through in blue as usual, and it's pitch black. You can just barely make your way through without Flash by looking at a few bits of wall the game gives you, but that's its own pain. So yeah, Flash. I don't think I know of a single person who likes Flash's presence in this series. A worthless move taking up space you can't delete just to get through this place. I can forgive it in this game. This was Game Freak's first RPG and they were still working things out. And I absolutely get why they would think of this. Classic RPGs like the early Dragon Quest had caves where you would need to carry torches to light your way. The devs would have played games like that and been inspired, and this would be their take on that. But the fact that it kept coming back for so long made it less and less forgivable. Gen 2 is annoying to still see, but it isn't too egregious, it's still early days. By Gen 3 they really should have known. But the fact that it took until Heart Gold and Soul Silver, essentially the 6th main games, 13 years into the series, to finally see the sense to demote Flash to a TM if they absolutely must have dark caves is just ridiculous. But let's get this over with. I go south through a gap, taking on a trainer, then go east all the way and north to a ladder. Said first trainer is a Pokemaniac. These tend to use the more weird or eccentric or just generally less seen Pokemon choices compared to everyone else. He starts with a level 23 Cubone and then has a level 23 Slowpoke. On this first floor I also catch a level 15 Machop, so Yellow only really pushed it forward by about a minute's worth of gameplay. Down the ladder and onto the second floor. From the ladder I go south and then west, battling the trainer marked A on the way. When I can I follow the path northwest, taking on the trainers B and C. At the end are the trainers D and E before I go up the ladder in the corner here. Trainer A is another Pokemaniac with just a level 25 Slowpoke. Trainer B is a junior trainer. She has a level 22 Oddish that gets Mankey to level 28 and a level 22 Bulbasaur. Mankey evolves and I now have a Primeape in all 3 versions. Trainer C is a Pokemaniac whose line talks about cosplay before the term cosplay really caught on in English speaking circles. He has a level 22 Charmander and a level 22 Cubone. Trainer D is a hiker with a level 25 Geodude, and Trainer E is another hiker with a level 20 Machop that gets Water to level 28 and a level 20 Onix. I then take the ladder back up to floor 1. I go south and around the west side of this wall, battling trainers A and B, then east taking on Trainer C before I go north and down another ladder. As I approach Trainer A, I bump a shoulder button and change the border to the dedicated blue border for this version. I knew I was missing something because I remember seeing these borders on the ads for this game on the first movie VHS. So from now I'm going to try and remember to keep these borders on to make it easier to tell which version the footage is coming from. All 3 trainers on this floor are hikers. The first one has a level 19 Geodude, a level 19 Machop, a second level 19 Geodude, and a third level 19 Geodude. Trainer B next and he has a level 20 Onix that gets Water to level 29. Then a second level 20 Onix and a level 20 Geodude. And then the last hiker who has a level 21 Geodude and a level 21 Graveler, and then I'm back to the second floor. Here I go west and north, taking on trainers marked A, B and C until I reach the ladder back to floor 1. A is a junior trainer with a level 21 Jigglypuff that gets Water to level 30, then a level 21 Pidgey and a level 21 Meowth. Trainer B is another hiker who has a level 21 Geodude, a second one and a level 21 Graveler. Trainer C is a Pokemaniac with a level 20 Slowpoke, a second one who gets Water to level 31, leading to me declining to learn Withdraw, and a third level 20 Slowpoke, then it's back to floor 1. I go all the way south, taking on trainers A and B on the way, then I go west a bit, battling Trainer C until I can go south to the ladder taking me outside. Trainer A junior trainer, has a level 22 Bellsprout and a level 22 Clefairy who gets Fearow to level 26. Trainer B is also a junior trainer who has a level 19 Pidgey, a level 19 Rattata, a second level 19 Pidgey and a level 19 Bellsprout. Trainer C is the one last junior trainer and she has a level 20 Meowth, a level 20 Oddish and a level 20 Pidgey. And there is the exit getting me near Lavender Town. But I'm still missing a wild Pokemon that I usually always get normally progressing through this place, but since I'm recording this playthrough now it has to be difficult. 7 more minutes at triple speed and Onix finally shows up. I catch it, its level doesn't matter as I'm never going to use it. I really like Onix, it's a cool gigantic rock snake. It's an intimidating first boss as the first gym leader's strongest Pokemon. And there's the fact that Brock being a main character in the anime meant that he brought his Onix along. And you look at Onix, you could easily see as a villain's big boss monster, and yet it's one of the good guys who has it. I always liked when the protagonists had Pokemon you wouldn't expect from them, outside of the mascot starter early game bird lot. And then the anime adds in all these cooler variants like the even gianter ones, the one with the scar and the crystal Onix. But then there's a downside. Onix is garbage in gameplay. It's just too slow and isn't strong enough or durable to make up for it. I was so disappointed when I finally decided to work on an Onix in gold, only to find the slightest breeze makes it shit itself and die. I said Beedrill wasn't the worst time I had trying to make a Pokemon work, because that was Onix. But you know what? Screw the most recent starter or whatever the current hotness is, put Onix in the next Smash instead. With that done, I can finally leave Rock Tunnel into the southern end of Route 10. The second I leave, I'm challenged by a junior trainer right next to the exit. She has a level 21 Pidgeot and a level 21 Pidgeotto. East from here is a tree I can inspect for a hidden Max Ether. West of the junior trainer is a hiker with a level 21 Geodude and a level 21 Onix. Jump down the ledge behind him to find another hiker. He has a level 19 Onix and a level 19 Graveler. And finally, I go west to find a Pokemaniac. He's got a level 20 Cubone and a level 20 Slowpoke that gets my Pidgeotto to level 26. That's all for this area, and I can move south into Lavender Town. As for Rock Tunnel in red, I take out the Pokemaniac on the first floor and move down to the second. I battle the first Pokemaniac, catch a level 15 Machop, and battle the first junior trainer, getting Alakazam to level 29. The second Pokemaniac is next, followed by the first hiker, then the second hiker before I move back to floor 1. I take on the first hiker who gets Alakazam to level 30, the second hiker, and the third who gets Alakazam to level 31, teaching it Recover over Teleport, before I go back to floor 2. I battle the junior trainer, the hiker who gets Alakazam to level 32, and the Pokemaniac before returning to floor 1. I battle the first junior trainer, the second and the third who gets Alakazam to level 33 and Charmeleon to level 26. Catching an Onix takes nowhere near as long and I'm back onto Route 10. I get the hidden Max Ether and battle the junior trainer, the first hiker, the second hiker and the Pokemaniac, getting Alakazam to level 34 before moving south into Lavender Town. That just leaves yellow. I battle the Pokemaniac on floor 1, getting my new Squirtle to level 11 and Gyarados to level 26, then Squirtle to level 12 before moving down to floor 2. I battle the first Pokemaniac, getting Squirtle to level 13. I catch an Onix and battle the junior trainer, the second Pokemaniac who gets Squirtle to level 14, the first hiker who gets Squirtle to level 15, and the second hiker who gets Squirtle to level 16 and evolves it into Wartortle before I go back to the first floor. I battle the first hiker, getting Wartortle to level 17, followed by a wild battle getting it to level 18. I battle the second hiker, getting Wartortle to level 19, then the third hiker who gets it to level 20 before going back to floor 2. I take on the junior trainer and get Wartortle to level 21, then the hiker who gets it to level 22, and finally the Pokemaniac who gets Gyarados to level 27 before I go back to floor 1. The first junior trainer, getting Wartortle to level 23, the second junior trainer, then the third before I leave to Route 10. I get the hidden Max Ether and battle the junior trainer who gets Dugtrio to level 33, the first hiker, the second hiker, and the Pokemaniac before I get to Lavender Town. So, back to Blue, and before I do anything, I'm gonna make some enemies and say that Lavender Town was never scary. Downbeat compared to the rest of the game, but never scary. That goes double for the music. This Lavender Town theme so scary made me projectile shit myself feels like a revisionist history. Maybe it's just my own limited experience in my own corner of the world, but through my childhood and teen years, all the people I knew who were into Pokemon, not a single person ever even spoke of Lavender Town's music, let alone said anything about it bothering them. Hell, even my earliest days on the internet, I never saw it. It wasn't until maybe the late 2000s I saw maybe 2 people say it was a bit creepy. But then in the 2010s, suddenly there's this boom of people circle jerking this slightly downbeat music track as the worst thing that ever happened to their lives. And that's even before all the creepypasta bollocks. I honestly don't know how we got so many people who genuinely believed the Lavender Town Syndrome story about this non-existent original version of its theme music causing child suicides. I don't need to go into how ridiculous that concept is because it's obvious, but what bothered me when it was hitting its peak in the early 2010s was how many people I saw who angrily defended the myth when it was pointed out how false it was and were adamant it was true. Like, not children and young teens, but people older than me. Like, these people genuinely wanted there to be so many child suicides because it would make their Pokemon game sound more mature. It always reeked of insecurity to me. Like, no mom, Pokemon isn't just for kids, just look at Lavender Town, there's death. Actually even killed kids mom, it's for adults only. I have no idea what voice I was going for there. That's the other thing, people bigging up that it's an area of the game that handles death in some form. You know that's not out of the ordinary for a children's franchise to do, right? And I'm not just talking about Japanese media, just from around the same time, Rugrats handled death a couple times, Recess handled death. Even Thomas the Frigging Tank Engine had episodes touching on mortality. I'm not saying Lavender Town does it badly, I'm just saying people have vastly overhyped what it does and act like it's unique to Pokemon in that time period. I got a bit sidetracked there, but to conclude, I was the kid who was so afraid of everything that the Extra Life jingle from Beavis and Butthead on the Super Nintendo scared me. If that pathetic wimp is saying something isn't scary, it's really not scary. But anyway, into the Pokemon Center so I can dump Hypno now I don't need Flash and get Mew back. We also box Primeape for Voltorb. In here we also get one of the main plot points of Lavender Town, a Cubone's mother who died protecting its child from Team Rocket. And another guy out on the street says that the Pokemon Tower has been taken over by ghosts, most likely of the Pokemon killed by rockets. Pokemon Tower being where many Pokemon are buried and memorial services are being held. There's a volunteer house for looking after orphaned and abandoned Pokemon, but the owner, Mr. Fuji, isn't here. But fuck all this murder and ghost shit, the most important part of this town is that I can now buy Great Balls and catch Pokemon easier. The name rater lives in this town if I want to give my Pokemon new nicknames, but once again, I'm a canon name guy and don't do nicknames. I'm just bad at thinking up names. If I ever have kids, I'll just have to leave them with their default name from the womb. And in the last house we can see the Cubone recently orphaned by Team Rocket. Finally I enter the Pokemon Tower where you can see Monas on the first floor. Up the stairs and Blue is hanging around, deciding that now's a good time for a battle. He starts with his usual Pidgeotto, now level 25. My own Pidgeotto takes it down easily. He follows it up with a level 23 Gyarados, which he will catch if he didn't pick Squirtle. I try my Voltorb, but forget it has no electric moves yet, leading to it being wiped in one Hydro Pump. Instead my Wartortle bites it out and reaches level 32. This is followed by level 22 Growlithe, which he gains if he didn't start with Charmander. Bubble Beam destroys it. The Kadabra returns at level 20 and is defeated in one Mew Mega Punch. That just leaves his Ivysaur, now level 25, and taken out by two Fearopeks, getting it to level 27. Blue says he just caught a Cubone and was looking for a Marowak around here, concluding there are none left before he leaves. And that's the character himself explaining why he's here. It has nothing to do with the fact he dropped his Raticate from his team. The theory that we killed Blue's Raticate is another of those things you read once, go, huh, that's an interesting thought, and move on with your life. But this is in Lavender Town, so of course it gets circle jerked to high hell and treated as if it was developer intent. It's just yet another what if you were the bad guy theory that starts with the conclusion and works backwards, inventing stuff like, Blue is unable to get to the Pokemon Center to save his Raticate due to the SSM being so crowded. You would have no reason to think because it's bollocks. And those are the ones that linger, shit like this and Renoa is Ultimecia or Link is dead in Majora's Mask that fall apart from the slightest scrutiny. But people desperately cling to and make up more shit to replace previously debunked made up shit and then make excuses like, maybe it was going to be true at some point in development, and it just gets sad. There's nothing wrong with theory crafting as long as you don't get stupidly attached to your pet theory and remember that it is just speculation. Those are just some of the ones I'm sick of seeing due to the desperation and trying to prove them real. But I've done enough shitting on other fans and acting like I've never believed stupid shit for one video, so let's get going. At the west end of the room, a channeler says they can't identify the ghost and that only a Sylph Scope can help them. And true enough, if I go to the next floor and trigger a wild battle, it's just a ghost. Pokemon are too afraid to fight them and I can't catch them, so I leave. All I can do now is leave town and I choose the western exit into Route 8. Heading south a little and west takes me to the first trainer of this route, Alas. She's got a level 22 Clefairy and a second level 22 Clefairy. West some more of here is the Rambling Gambling Dude. He's got a level 24 Growlithe and a level 24 Vulpix. Heading north I can see another trainer, but first I cut down a tree and inspect the tall grass in this closed off space. Eventually I find a level 18 Vulpix I catch. I've never used the Vulpix line myself, but it's a pretty cute Pokemon. I had some slight attachment to it as a kid since, for a while, a small Vulpix figure was one of the very few Pokemon toys I had until the following Christmas. Our post office used to sell toy Pokeballs that contained some sweets, a candy necklace I think, and a random toy, and both me and my brother got a Vulpix in ours. Since Vulpix isn't in red and takes more effort than it's worth in yellow, I catch a second and third for trading over to them. Back on the path and heading north, that third trainer is a super nerd. He's got a level 22 Grimer that gets my Voltorb to level 18, a level 22 Muk, and a second level 22 Grimer that gets Mew to level 26. Moving west again takes me to 4 trainers in a line. I trigger a battle with the second from the top, a super nerd with just a level 26 Koffing. The one above him is Alas who collects Nidorans. She has a female Nidoran at level 23 that gets my Voltorb to level 19, and a level 23 Nidorina. Third in line is another lass gushing over Meowth. She has a level 24 Meowth, a level 24 Meowth, and a level 24 Meowth. The last trainer in this line is one more lass who is aware of how strange this line would look in the universe. She has a level 19 Pidgey, a level 19 Rattata, a level 19 male Nidoran, a level 19 Meowth who gets Voltorb to level 20, and a level 19 Pikachu. I think she's the only generic trainer so far to have had 5 Pokemon. The only other trainer at all so far was the most recent Blue Battle. After healing at the Lavender Town Centre, I get my Thunderbolt TM from the PC and teach it to Voltorb. I get back on the path and follow it south and west to the end before going north again to reach another Gambler. This one has a level 22 Poliwag, a second one, and a level 22 Poliwhirl. Despite Thunderbolt, Hypnosis loses me Voltorb and Pidgeotto finish the battle to reach level 27. North of the Gambler is another Super Nerd, the last trainer on the route. He has a level 20 Voltorb, a level 20 Koffing that gets Voltorb to level 21, a second level 20 Voltorb, and a level 20 Magnemite. With the route defeated and unable to use the gatehouse thanks to a thirsty guard, I go into another underground path. There are 2 hidden items on the floor this time, an elixir and a nugget. I leave the other side to end up on Route 7. This is a very small screen with another gatehouse I can't use and no new Pokemon, so I just go northeast into Celadon City. And now to do all that in red. I dump Hypnotha Voltorb and get in the Pokemon Tower to battle Blue. Alakazam takes out his Pidgeotto and his Growlithe. Since this Blue did choose Squirtle, he needed the Grass type to replace Ivysaur, so he has Execute which my Charmeleon wipes out. It also defeats his Kadabra, leaving just the Wartortle, which Primeape defeats in a single Fury Swipes. Then it's on to Route 8 where I take on the first Lass and a second Gambler, where Voltorb reaches level 17 and learns Sonic Boom. I get in the grass and, exclusive to Red, find a Growlithe and catch it. Growlithe is one of those Pokemon that's cute, but I never think about it, only its evolution. But like Vulpix, I've also never used this line. You just get Pokemon like that, where the evolution completely overshadows what came before in your memories. I also catch a second and third for Blue and Yellow. I battle the first Super Nerd and get Charmeleon to level 27. Then comes a second Lass, then second Super Nerd who gets Charmeleon to level 28. The third Lass is next and then the fourth, neither with any level ups. That just leaves the second Gambler and third Super Nerd also without level ups, before I go into the underground path, get the hidden elixir and nugget, exit into Route 7 and head into Celadon City. Just Yellow now, and Hypno is replaced with Charmeleon before I go into Pokemon Tower to battle Blue. He starts with a level 25 Fearow which my Pikachu defeats easily, getting to level 26 and forgetting Thundershock for Thunderbolt. Instead of a Gyarados, Blue's water Pokemon is a level 23 Shellder, one Thunderbolt removes it. And instead of a Growlithe, he has a level 22 Vulpix that my Wartortle defeats with a single Water Gun. His Sandshrew returns at level 20 and can't stand up to Gyarados' Bubble Beam. That just leaves his Eevee at level 25 that falls to 2 Bubble Beams. Route 8 next. The first Lass falls and the first Gambler gets Pikachu to level 27. I have no new Pokemon to catch in this version, so it's straight to the first Super Nerd, then the second Lass, second Super Nerd who gets Pikachu to level 28, then walk past the third Lass to battle the fourth, getting Gyarados to level 28. She's had a slight change in that the Pikachu she used last has been replaced with a level 19 male Nidoran. I then take on the third Lass and second Gambler, getting Pikachu to level 29. The third Super Nerd comes last and gets Dugtrio to level 34. I go into the underground path, get the elixir and nugget, exit to Route 7 and travel to Celadon City, and so back to Blue. There's a Rocket Grunt right at the entrance of town warning me not to interfere with them. I really love Celadon City. It's the place in the game that feels the most like a living city where people actually live. Heading south from the centre past a row of buildings and then east, I can cut down a tree and go north of the path inside to find a hidden PP up in a tree. Going south and into the first building I can and there's a hotel. I was certain for ages as a kid that there must be something hidden in here because it's so different from everywhere else in the game. But it's just there for flavour. And because I know it'll get brought up if I don't mention it, yes, the hotel is copy-paste of Pokemon Center data and so there's an invisible PC I can use in the corner. The house next to it has a guy tell me that there is definitely no secret switch behind the poster in the game corner. Good to know. In the same house is a Rocket Grunt saying that 2,000 Pokemon have been shipped there as prizes. The house next to that is a cafe where a guy tells me there's a hidden basement in the game corner, and a miserable dude who lost all his money on the slots there. He lets me have his coin case used for storing the game corner's tokens. Back on the northern end of town, I can enter the Celadon Mansion. The first 2 floors aren't anything special, but on the 3rd floor we have the developer room. Imagine walking into a room and some guy you've never seen before says, "I drew you!" I'm also 2 for 2 on RPGs with developer rooms having one of the devs lusting over the women in the game they're making. The lead designer also tells me to come back once I've filled out the Pokédex. The roof has another room I can't reach from this side, so I leave. Instead I can go around the back of the Pokemon Center to find the back door to the mansion, where I can walk up to the roof and enter that room. Inside is a guy who offers more generic gameplay tips, but more importantly is a Pokeball I can just take, containing an Eevee. Eevee is very cute, and with the gimmick of having multiple different evolutions, it definitely stood out. The fact that they can continue to add new evolutions whenever they want for any missing types also helps keep it relevant in a way that feels more natural than, say, Charizard with its new forms over the last decade. Since I never played XD or past Gen 5, I've never actually used an actual Eevee, since my experience with the main game ends before it started getting its own stuff unrelated to its evolutions. West of the mansion, instead of a Pokemart, Celadon has a huge department store. This place has many floors all with different shops. The second floor has two, one that sells the usual items at most shops, and another that sells TMs, the few TMs in the game you can get multiple copies of. I also finally remember to sell nuggets instead of letting them take up space. The third floor doesn't have a shop, but the person behind the counter will give me TM18, containing the move counter. This floor is instead filled with gamers, including getting to watch a trade involving a guy who loves Gravelers so much, he doesn't know they evolve on being traded. More interesting are these Super Nintendos hooked up to TVs, which inspecting will have us notice a sports game, thinking Red's dad will like it. The only time I'm aware of where Red's father is acknowledged. The fourth floor sells evolution stones and a Pokédoll. I buy 2 Leaf Stones, a Water Stone, a Thunder Stone, and a Fire Stone for the Pokemon I can currently evolve with them. Before exploring the last of the floors, I run back to the PC so I can use the stones and stop them taking up inventory space. First is a Leaf Stone on Weeping Bell to evolve it into a Victory Bell. I love Victory Bell. Yes, it's anime influence. Having this huge man-eating plant constantly eating James not because it's hungry but out of affection was one of the better running rocket gags. Far better than the constant expansion of the motto with Wobbuffet and I think then Chimecho later. I also like how you can clearly see the evolution of Bellsprout's head as it loses and gains branches and leaves over the line, eventually managing to look threatening instead of dopey. Next is Eevee. Since I only get one Eevee per game, I need each game to choose a different evolution to get them all. Since this is blue, I go with the Water Stone to get a Vaporeon. Couldn't tell you why, but as a kid Vaporeon was my least favourite of the original 3 evolutions, I just liked the other ones more. Even now it's still not a favourite of mine, though to be fair, I don't love the evolutions in general to the same extent many fans do. It's still a fine Pokemon though. Next is giving Gloom a Leaf Stone to evolve it into Vileplume. Vileplume is basically just Oddish with arms and a new hat. I like it for the way it completes the plant life cycle, making it the adult to Gloom's awkward teenage years, but overall I'd have to say Gloom is my favourite of the 3. I also never saw an anime episode involving it for me to remember it by back then. Then comes using the Thunderstone to evolve Pikachu into Raichu. I really like Raichu, and it's such a shame they got mistreated by the franchise for so long, the Alolan form only happening after I'd fallen off the main games. I get the anime episode making it a rival Thrasher's Pikachu, pitting Pikachu against its bigger, stronger self, but then he just kind of gets ignored, even in the games. Raichu is just as cute and endearing as Pikachu, and honestly I would not mind if Raichu was added to Smash alongside Pikachu and Pichu. If we can have 3 links and 4 variations of Marth's moveset, neither of which I have a problem with by the way, then 3 variants on Pikachu should be fine too. Or, using the Star Fox characters as comparison, Pikachu would be the fox, Pichu the falco, then Raichu the wolf, who's most different. Really, I just want that full set to be playable because it would please me to see it complete. Finally, I use the Fire Stone on Vulpix to get a Ninetales. I don't know if this is an unpopular opinion or not, but I actually like Vulpix more than Ninetales. Ninetales is one of those I've seen that is absolutely adored by its fans, and I absolutely get why, but I was never just a massive fan. I think it's fine. Continuing through the store to the 5th floor, this one sells battle items and stat boosting items. Since I just play these games alone and never bothered with competitive battling or things like the battle towers and such, I only ever use the ones I find on the ground. On the roof, there's a kid demanding a drink. There's a vending machine here with 3 drinks, and each one I give to the kid has them thank me with a different TM. For fresh water, I get TM13, Ice Beam. For soda pop, I get TM48, Rock Slide, and for lemonade, I get TM49, Tri Attack. I also buy a second fresh water and leave town the way I came. I enter the gatehouse and give the thirsty guard the fresh water. With his thirst quenched, he'll now allow me through the gatehouse and into Saffron City. He's even gonna share this one bottle between all 4 guards to somehow eliminate all their thirsts forever. How big's this bottle? Back to the Pokemon Center, I get back the team I entered the city with and leave through the west to Route 16, which I only have access to half of as there is a second Snorlax blocking the path to the gatehouse. I instead cut through this nearby tree and run around in the grass until I find a Doduo, which I catch at level 20. I like Doduo, it's kinda cute and has a cool evolution. Although it is another of those like Dugtrio where its 2 heads make me have questions about whether they are their own separate minds or they share one. I go through the back of the gatehouse to the other side where there is a house. The girl inside congratulates me on finding her secret retreat and gives me HM2, Fly. Now I can fly back to any Pokemon Center I've already visited, except for the ones outside Mount Moon and Rock Tunnel. I teach it to my Fearow since it's a decent move, overwriting Leah. With all that done, I go to the southern end of Celadon and cut through this tree before heading west to find the Celadon Gym. But first, that was a lot, so I'll cover it all in red first. I get the hidden PP up, the coin case, the free Eevee, TM18 and a load of stones. Since this is Pokemon Red, I give this Eevee the Fire Stone to evolve it into a Flareon. Flareon is probably my favourite of the evolutions, not for any particular reason other than I happen to think it's the cutest. Though here's an anecdote for you. When I was first getting into Pokemon through the anime, I saw the episode where Ash catches Primeape but didn't pick up its name. So I asked another kid at school what the name of this Pokemon was and tried to describe Primeape as best as my untalented ass could. And they told me the Pokemon I described was named Flareon. Since I'd never seen the real Flareon, I spent a while thinking Primeape's name was Flareon until we got one of those posters listing all the original 150. After that, I used another Firestone to evolve Growlithe into Arcanine. Now Arcanine's a cool one. I never used it, but I always liked it. This is one of those ones where I don't have much to say, it's just cool. When comparing the Growlithe line to its blue counterpart, the Vulpix line, I like Vulpix more than Growlithe, but Arcanine more than Ninetales. I used the rest of the stones to evolve myself a Raichu, Victreebel and Vileplume. I get the TM13, TM48 and TM49 from the thirsty kid and give the Gatehouse guard a drink to open up Saffron City. Then it's to Route 16 to catch a Doduo at level 20 and get HM2, teaching Flight to Pidgeotto before I enter Celadon Gym. Now for Yellow. I get the PP up, the coin case, the free Eevee, the TM18 and buy the stones. You can try to give Pikachu a Thunderstone in this version, but it will refuse. If you want to Raichu in Yellow, you'll have to either trade one from another version, or trade this Pikachu to another version where it can't refuse a stone and then trade it back. For Yellow, I use a Thunderstone on the Eevee to get a Jolteon. I liked Jolteon a lot as a kid, second only to Flareon, but today, I don't know, I don't think it looks as cool as I thought it did as a kid. And today, I think it's now my least favourite of the three originals, being beaten out by Vaporeon. It's still alright though, I don't dislike it or anything. I then evolve myself a Victreebel and Vileplume. I get the TM13, TM48 and TM49 and give the Gatehouse guard his drink. Then it's to Route 16 where despite Doduo being more common on this version, it takes longer to find one. During the search, Pikachu reaches level 29 and I accidentally KO the first Doduo I find to reach level 30, but this results in a higher level Doduo I catch at level 24. This helps because Doduo is then added to my team as it will become my main flying type in Yellow. Then it's getting HM2 and going into the gym. Taking it on with Blue first, I head straight north to battle the first trainer, Alas. With this being a grass gym, Fearow gets to have a spotlight here while switch training Voltorb. She has a level 23 Bellsprout and a level 23 Weeping Bell that gets Voltorb to level 22, declining to learn Self-Destruct. North of the Lass is the first beauty I battle in this run. She has a level 21 Oddish, level 21 Bellsprout, second level 21 Oddish, and second level 21 Bellsprout that gets Fearow to level 28. I need to cut to reach the middle area with the gym leader, but first there are trainers on either side of that section. To the west is another beauty with a level 24 Bellsprout and a second one. To the east is a junior trainer who uses a level 24 Bulbasaur and a level 24 Ivysaur. I use cut to enter the middle and take on the trainer in the middle right. This is the first female cool trainer in the game. She uses a level 24 Weeping Bell that gets Fearow to level 29, a level 24 Gloom and a level 24 Ivysaur. To her right is another lass, who uses a level 23 Oddish and a level 23 Gloom who gets Fearow to level 30. On the far left side is one more beauty. She only has one Pokemon, a level 26 Execute. The first Pokemon in this gym to take more than one peck to defeat. That just leaves the gym leader, Erica. She's the chillest gym leader in the game, all relaxed and out of it, not even noticing I've taken out her entire gym. Following Surge, who used Pokemon in War, she uses hers to help her with flower arranging. She starts with a level 29 Victreebel that catches Fearow in Wrap, but gets taken down by 2 pecks. Next is the level 24 Tangela. The exact same thing happens but with Bind instead of Wrap. But this time I was cocky, and the poison I couldn't be asked to heal before the match added with Bind brought Fearow down. So I send out Pidgeotto and keep quick attacking until it falls. That just leaves a level 29 Vileplume. Pidgeotto does decent damage to it over a few turns, but Poison and Thrash take it out, so I send out Mew to finish the job. Erica's Super Potion failing to help Vileplume's Thrash-induced confusion. Mew reaches level 27 and Erica grants me the Rainbow Badge. This one allows me to use the HM move Strength outside of battle, and get straight a Pokemon up to level 50 to obey me. Erica also gives me TM21 containing Mega Drain. Not an amazing move, but it has its uses. Now let's do it all in red. 4 gyms in and finally one where my starter Charmeleon can shine. I defeat the first lass, getting Charmeleon to level 30. then the first beauty, the second beauty, and first junior trainer who gets Charmeleon to level 31. The second last follows, then cool trainer getting Charmeleon to level 32. The third beauty is then dealt with, getting Pidgeotto to level 26. That just leaves Erica. Victory Bell is embered, Tangela is embered and gets Charmeleon to level 33, letting it forget Leah to learn a much appreciated Slash. Then Vileplume gets embered. I get my Rainbow Badge and TM21. Easy. That just leaves Yellow. I decide to let Doduo have a go here. I battle the first last, the first beauty who gets Doduo to level 25, the second beauty and junior trainer who gets Doduo to level 26. The second last is next, the cool trainer who gets Ivysaur to level 26. I defeat the third beauty and then take on Erica. Erica is the last gym leader to have a 100% anime accurate team. She keeps a Tangela which is now level 30. It's a close damage race between it and Tangela thanks to Tangela's extra levels, but Doduo comes out on top, reaching level 27. Her Victory Bell has been swapped for a level 32 Weeping Bell. I just barely failed to knock it out before Acid defeats Doduo. So Ivysaur takes out those last few pixels of health and reaches level 27. Finally, her Vileplume is now a level 32 Gloom. Ivysaur is defeated but not before taking out just under a third of its health. Pikachu comes close but Thrash takes it out too. I then just let Gyarados take the last hit. Erica gives me my Rainbow Badge and TM21. A bit tougher since I had 2 Pokemon weak against grass and only 1 strong against it. I got cocky again. But with all that done, time for some more trading. First Blue and Red. I swap Vaporeon and Flareon to register them on each other, and then trade a spare Vulpix for a spare Growlithe. Blue and Yellow next. I trade Flareon and Jolteon to register those and send Yellow the other spare Vulpix and also a Raichu to register it there. Then for Red and Yellow, I swap Vaporeon and Jolteon to register those and give Yellow the other spare Growlithe. So back to Blue, and first thing I do is evolve that Growlithe into an Arcanine. There's one more place to check out in Celadon City. South of the Pokemon Center, the building on the left is the game corner. I can buy coins to play slots to earn more coins that can be spent on TMs or Pokemon. I'll deal with all that much later. First I'm going around picking up all the spare coins left on the floor. From the entrance, 1 step north and 4 west has me pick up 10 coins from the ground. 10 more in the tile 1 north and 1 west of those. Another 20 in the spot 3 tiles north from there. From the bottom left corner, the tile 1 north and 1 east is 10 more coins. 2 tiles east and 2 north gets another 10. Then 1 east and 2 north gets 10 more. 1 north and 1 west from that one gets me 20 more. The tile directly above the furthest left row of slot machines hides 10 more coins. Talking to Guy in the Hat in the left aisle has him give me 10 coins. Back in the middle aisle, 3 tiles north of the right row of chairs is where I can pick up 20 coins. 1 tile south from there and 4 tiles east is a spot hiding 100 coins. The guy in the glasses on the right aisle gives me 20 coins. The guy in the suit gives me another 20, and 1 tile south and 1 west from him hides the last 10 free coins. The slot machines are your basic slot machine, inefficient for the amount of coins I'm going to need to build up. So instead let's chat with this Rocket Grunt in the north end guarding this poster. He's so protective over it that he's willing to start a fight in this crowded building. He has a level 20 Raticate and a level 20 Zubat. Realising their hideout is about to be discovered, he runs off to tell their boss. Inspecting the poster has me find a switch behind it. And after that guy swore to me there was nothing behind it too. Can you believe it? It opens up a door into the Rocket hideout. I start right next to the stairs down to the next floor, but first I go southeast to the Rocket Grunt marked A. The one south of him is gated off, so I go west to battle the one marked B. I then go south to grab the first item, and in the middle of the room I inspect the bottom right plant for a hidden item before I go down the stairs. Rocket Grunt A has a level 21 Drowsy and a level 21 Machop. Rocket B has a level 21 Raticate that gets Mew to level 28, followed by a second one. The first item is an escape rope and the one hidden in the plant is a PP up. Then it's down to floor B2. I go south and west to battle the only trainer on this floor. He has 5 Pokemon and starts with a level 17 Zubat, then a level 17 Coffin, a level 17 Grimer, a second level 17 Zubat and a level 17 Raticate. But then comes the arrows. Stepping on them will force you along in that direction until you land on a tile made of 4 squares. So I have this maze to sort out. Of the 2 in front of me I pick the bottom one. When it stops me I go south to find the first item and then back to the stop tile and around the top for the second. Back to the stop tile I take the first arrow south of it, taking the nearby third item next to where I stop. From the stop tile I go south and take the down arrow to my right, which takes me south, east and south again. I step on the arrow 2 steps to the left, taking me west, south and then at the next stop tile it's east and south, taking the bottom arrow west, north and west. I then follow the maze south, west all the way and north to a stop tile that lets me get the 4th item. Back to the 2 arrows in the southeast, I take the top one that allows me to leave the maze where a lift and some stairs are. I can't use the lift so I take the stairs back up to the first floor. The first item is the last moonstone I need to get all evolutions, the second item is just a nugget. The third item is TM7, the instant KO horn drill. The fourth item was a long journey for just a super potion, and back to the first floor. Not gonna map it, this room is just a big square. I battle the rocket at the south of the table who has a level 19 Rattata, a level 19 Raticate, a second level 19 Raticate who gets War Turtle to level 33, and a second level 19 Rattata that gets Pidgeotto to level 28. There's another rocket at the north end of the table who has a level 20 Grimer, a level 20 Koffing who gets Voltorb to level 23, and a second level 20 Koffing. In the northwest corner of this room is a Hyper Potion. At this point I leave to heal, and since I'm at the Pokemon Center I use that Moonstone to get out of my inventory, evolving Nidorina into Nidoqueen. I may like Nidoking just a little bit more, but Nidoqueen is just as cool. I don't think I've seen a single person who likes one but not the other. And I could definitely get why one would like Nidoqueen more, being a lot less spiky and over the top. Overall, I think the results of the Nidoran lines do a good job of showing how a split evolution line can work, and it's still my favourite use of gendered evolution lines simply for having the largest amount of Pokemon involved. Back to floor B2, and north of its only rocket is the stairs down to floor B3. I start by going south, battling the first rocket and grabbing an item, along with a second hidden item right next to it. Then into the maze. At the top I take the right arrow which sends me east and south where I can go north to get the third item. I go back up and take the left arrow, then south to take one more that sends me east. At the stop tile I go southwest to 3 arrows pointing east and take the middle one, that also leads me south where I can battle the second rocket, leave the maze and go northeast down some more stairs. The first rocket uses a level 21 Machop, followed by a second. The first item is TM10, Double Edge, and the hidden item right next to it is a nugget. The third item is a rare candy, and the second rocket sends out a level 20 Rattata, a level 20 Raticate that gets Voltorb to level 24, and a level 20 Drowsy, then it's down to floor B4. First I go southwest to find an item on the table. Back to the stairs I go northwest and around the table to find a second item. I defeat the rocket here for another item, and then leave the way I came. The first item is a HP up I give straight to War Turtle to make room. The second is TM2, Razor Wind. The rocket here is aware the lift doesn't work and pretends, very badly, not to know who has the lift key. He uses a level 21 Koffing and a level 21 Zubat. Defeating him makes him drop the lift key and I take it. I return to floor B2 and get in the lift. I can go down to the southern and eastern part of floor B4. Before battling the rockets here, first I go southwest to find an iron on the table. Once again I just give these things straight to my starter to save space. Back to the rockets, the one on the left recognises me from Mount Moon. He has a level 23 Sandshrew, a level 23 Ekans and a level 23 Sandslash. As for the rocket on the right, he's got a level 23 Ekans, a level 23 Sandshrew that gets War Turtle to level 34, and a level 23 Arbok. Defeating them both opens a door here and I can finally meet the rocket boss, Giovanni. All he has to say is that he's impressed I got here before he starts the battle. Giovanni specialises in ground Pokemon, which is good for me with my War Turtle. He starts with a level 25 Onix, then a level 24 Rhyhorn, and finally a level 29 Kangaskhan. Bubble Beam takes out the first two in one hit, while Kangaskhan is mighty enough to require 3, reaching level 35. Just one more level, but you're gonna have to wait for next episode. He takes note of Red's method of raising his Pokemon with care, but says a child could never understand his ambitions. He retreats in the hope of meeting me again, leaving behind the Sylph Scope, which will allow me to see the ghosts in Pokemon Tower. I take the lift back to an area of the first floor I couldn't reach before. Before I can leave, I just have one remaining rocket to deal with. He's nothing special, just a level 22 Grimer and level 22 Koffing. That is the rocket hideout cleared out of everything, and now I can leave. This will be where I leave it this episode, but I still have the other two to do, starting with Red. I clear out the game corner of all its coins, I can't be asked to individually point everyone out. I defeat the Rocket Grunt, getting Primeape to level 29 and gaining access to the rocket hideout. On floor B1 I battle the second rocket this time, getting Alakazam to level 35. I get the escape rope, the hidden PP up and battle the first rocket. Down to B2 I defeat the rocket and get the Moonstone, Nugget, TM7 and Super Potion before I go up to the southern part of floor B1. I battle the first rocket, getting Pidgeotto to level 27 and the second getting it to level 28 before I grab the Hyper Potion and leave to heal, taking the chance to evolve myself a Nidoqueen. Down to floor B3 and I take on the first rocket, grab TM10, the hidden nugget, the rare candy and battle the second rocket who gets Charmeleon to level 34. Down to northern B4 I get the HP up, the TM2 and battle the rocket who gets Pidgeotto to level 29. I take the lift key and ride it down to the other half of floor B4. I get the iron and battle the left rocket, followed by the right one who gets Pidgeotto to level 30. That leaves Giovanni, and since Pidgeotto was downed by the previous battle, I just send Alakazam out to one-shot all 3 of his Pokemon with Psybeam. I grab the Silph and take the lift to battle the final Rocket, getting Alakazam to level 36 before I'm done with this place. That just leaves Yellow. I evolve my traded Vulpix into Ninetales, having forgotten to do it in Red, and Growlithe into Arcanine. I clear the game corner of its coins and battle the Rocket guarding the poster. Into the hideout, on B1 I battle the second Rocket, getting Ivysaur to level 28 before I get the escape rope and take on the first Rocket, get the hidden PP up and go to floor B2. I battle the only Rocket, getting Doduo to level 28. I get the Moonstone, Nugget, TM7 and Super Potion, then go back up to floor B1. I take on the first Rocket and the second, getting Gyarados to level 29 before I take the Hyper Potion and leave to heal, evolving a Nidoqueen on the way. On floor B3 I take out the first Rocket and grab the TM10, Hidden Nugget and Rare Candy. The second Rocket is next, getting Doduo to level 29 before going down to floor B4. I get the HP up, the TM2 and take on the Rocket for a lift key. Riding it down to Giovanni's half of the room, the 2 Rockets have been replaced with Jesse and James, looking for a rematch. They start with Koffing, now level 25, followed by Meowth at level 25 and finally Ekans, also at level 25. My Doduo takes them all down with Fury Attack. This time they get the correct line when they blast off. I get the iron on the table and battle Giovanni. His team has been changed a little. He starts with a level 25 Onix that weakens my Doduo, so I swap for Ivysaur and take it down with Vine Whip. Doduo reaches level 30 from this and learns Drill Peck, replacing Growl. He also keys for level 24 Rhyhorn that also falls to a single Vine Whip. But his Kangaskhan has been swapped with the Persian he is always seen with in the anime at level 29. I get in a damage race with Body Slam and just barely win it, getting Ivysaur to level 29. I get the Silph and battle the final Rocket on the way out. With him done, that's me done for this episode as well. I enjoyed this section of the game just as much as the first video, with the Million Gym and Rock Tunnel being the only points I didn't care for. But it's made up for with my favourite city in the game and the more interesting Rocket hideout. Can't forget to bring up the SS Anne, which made for a fun one-time visit area. Covered a bit less Pokemon this time, 37 compared to last episode's 40. But that'll be made up for next episode when I return to Lavender Town to take on the Pokemon Tower.